How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Sip Talk. I'm your host, Pete Sippis, joined by my brother today, Xander. And joining us for the first time in a long time, the real long-time Sip Talk listeners know who he is. Last heard on the newly quarantined game, that was episode 2, but making his return to the show to talk some Celtics offseason, Nathaniel Gordon. Nat, how are you?
Oh, I'm just dandy, Pete. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, knowing that Danny Ainge has the Celtics' best interests in mind. He has my best interests in mind, and I am Team Danny. This is going to be great for anyone who has no idea who the Celtics are, might not know who Danny is, but yeah, loving what the Boston Celtics are doing. And I believe that you kind of disagree, somewhat agree. We had some back and forth, and that's why I'm bringing you on here. So, Nat, what is your biggest takeaway from the Celtics offseason or the NBA offseason so far?
Well, the definitely the mood around the Celtics right now is you have to wait and see because I mean there is a scenario here where Danny has figured out a way to upgrade multiple areas of need while turning an area of over depth in like the star wing into something that could be more useful, but it really all just depends on how the Gordon Hayward situation plays out. I think that it's kind of a long shot that that plays out well at all. But I mean, I did hear like on Woj's Twitter today that a sign and trade is expected to be completed, where the Celtics would get a trade exception. So really, judgment I guess can't be passed until you see what the Celtics do with that trade exception. But in the end, you just have to ask yourself, what would you rather have? Miles Turner and Doug McDermott, which it seems is what the Pacers were willing to offer. Would you rather have those two, or would you rather do whatever you're going to have to do to turn this Hayward thing into a sign and trade, which could possibly mean sending a pick to Charlotte, and then doing whatever you have to do to use the sign and trade, which could mean trading many future assets to use that exception to get a player back. So I don't know. Personally, I'm much more of a fan of Miles Turner than a lot of people on Celtics Twitter are. I mean, he's been getting dragged through the mud for the last few days ever since Danny didn't trade for him. But I think he would have fit well. But, it's very obvious that Danny feels otherwise. And, obviously I trust him on that over myself. But there was value to be had there. So hopefully, if Gordon Hayward's not lost for nothing, because if he is lost for nothing, that would be a colossal misstep and failure on the Celtics brass part.
So, my opinion on Gordon Hayward, and I don't know if this opinion is public, but you definitely know it. He was probably my least favorite player on the Celtics. Not because I didn't like the guy, he was fine, but I thought that the team that the Celtics were developing after getting rid of Kyrie was a very lovable team. And I love Grant Williams and Marcus Smart, Taco Fall when he plays, love the two J's. But like anytime Gordon Hayward took the court, I wasn't really that excited. The only time I was really excited for Gordon Hayward was that first game we had him and he went down. And I would say that moment really is what brought us here today. No fault of Gordon Hayward, no fault of the Celtics, but I personally am happy to see him go. I'm so happy to see him go to the point where I'm not too disappointed that we didn't get a guy like Miles Turner. I would say that I don't think we can know when this will be a quote unquote failure for Danny Ainge, even if you don't get someone like Miles Turner, you don't get what he could have got because we haven't played a season yet. And nothing that Danny has done has shown that, oh, this team is failing. Danny took the Celtics to multiple playoff runs with players that don't usually take playoff runs. There's a playoff run with Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. That does not happen. That only happens under a coach like Brad Stevens. Like three conference finals in the last 4 years. We're one of three teams to have gone three times in the last like 6 years or so. There's only been 12 different teams to go to the conference finals, East and West. So I would say that nothing that Danny has done would make me think, oh, this is a failure, Danny, because we haven't played any games yet. That's why I'm getting frustrated at Celtics Twitter is that, oh, this is a huge failure on Danny Ainge. How do you know that? We're 0-0 right now. And last season was very successful. We lost to a very good Miami Heat team in a really weird circumstance. A Miami Heat team that took the Lakers to 6 games without their two best players, and we took that team to 6 games. And so I have so much faith in Danny Ainge, and Celtics Twitter these last few weeks have just been very frustrating because I feel like there's these very high expectations, even though we should not have any expectations. Even though I feel like this is coming under the fact that, oh, it's a Boston team. We're
Why should
always
we have
expected
no
to win
expectations?
championships
Why should Boston Celtics fans not have any expectations?
because we are very grateful to even be in this position. Because I know plenty of people who would kill to have a GM like Danny Ainge to be in a sports city like Boston. Like, look, like the Celtics are one of 2 Boston teams that I support. They're the ones, the New England Revolution. I'm an Arizona Wildcats fan. Like, I know what it's like to watch something and watch a team every single week just to be disappointed. Even when you have the best players and you're ranked number 1 in the country, boom, you lose to Buffalo in the first round by 20. So, like, I know what it's like to just be tortured. And so, like, I'm happy with the conference final. I believe that we can win a championship at some point with the core of Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown because they are the future of the NBA. They're one of the best duos right now, and they are young. And people retire. LeBron James is going to drop off at some point, even though he is an anomaly. And we just can't think that every athlete is like Tom Brady.
Yeah, no, you're right on that, and we're definitely very spoiled as Boston fans. I think you can attest. You can be a little bit more grateful as someone who's a fan of a very diverse portfolio of sports teams. But if you're a fan of the 4 major Boston sports teams, since the Celtics have last won a title, you've seen the Bruins win 1 championship, you've seen the Sox win 2 championships, and you've seen the Patriots win 3 championships and make it to multiple other Super Bowls as well. So that's probably part of the reason that the Celtics definitely, like, you see a lot of fans really trying to push Danny to push in the chips, especially when it's late first round draft picks that seemingly get used on players that don't always make impacts. Although that can be, there's multiple sides to that argument because late round first round picks have been spent on like Robert Williams and Grant Williams who have already made impacts. So say what you will on that, but
There's an argument to be had, though, that the Celtics have been more competitive since 2008, year in and year out, than the Red Sox, than the Bruins, on a
oh yeah,
year-to-year
no,
basis. I mean, the
right.
Celtics are competitive every year,
They missed the
and
playoffs once. That was it.
yeah, one was it once or twice? It was just once, right?
Yeah, because they were an 8
Yeah.
seed the next year after they got IT. And no one's
So
I don't think anyone's complaining about their lack of competitiveness. And I honestly, I don't think there's anyone out there that thinks the Celtics aren't going to be good this year. They're going to be very good this year. Like, they're a deeper, with or without Gordon Hayward, they are going to be a deeper team this year with Tristan Thompson making an impact that Ennis Cantor couldn't on the defensive end, and then Jeff Teague being able to score a little bit more off the bench as a guard, more than Brad Wanamaker could last year. So, there's areas of this team that are going to be better. I don't think anyone's frustrated with Danny for not putting a competitive team on the floor because he always does that. I think there are just certain areas where even like fans can peer in and see the missteps that are made that could have possibly resulted in a better present and future for the Celtics. I mean, you lost 3 max free agents for nothing, and obviously there are different reasons for those things, and like some of those things you couldn't predict. Like, no one's going to get on Danny for losing Al Horford for nothing when it seemed like he was happy here, and you didn't see a
We had
100
we
plus
had no
million
idea
dollar.
that Kyrie Irving was going to be a locker room cancer and become the laughing stock of the league.
Well, I
Like,
have a
like
question for you on that, Pete. In the middle of Kyrie Irving's last season, when the Celtics had those super high expectations and were obviously not living up to them by the middle of the season, there could have been an argument made for Danny Ainge to trade 3 of the 4 players that ended up leaving in free agency. You could have made an argument to trade Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, or even Kyrie Irving in the middle of that season to try to shake things up, when just the year before that, David Griffin with the Cleveland Cavaliers shook that roster up in the middle of the season and as a result made the finals. Whereas Danny stayed pat. They lost in the second round in 5 games and then had 4 players leave in free agency for nothing.
I think there was a huge mindset there that come playoff time, hey, these guys really aren't playing that well right now. But I think there were flashes of that team, like when they all played well together, like they were a top 3 team in the
Yeah, they were
NBA.
great.
You could make that argument.
Also,
But
it's very easy to shake up a roster in the middle of the season when you still have LeBron James.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I don't even. There would have been 2 routes you could have gone. You could have either tanked it and traded Kyrie, or you could have pulled the shake it up move and traded Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier, who were the 2 of the guys who were most upset with their roles.
But why would you tank it as a 4 seed? Like
I'm not saying you should have tanked
They were
it.
sitting in the middle. They were sitting in the middle of the pack. Like that's the whole thing. Is that
I don't think you should have tanked it.
also,
yeah,
there's no guarantee that
they died at the hands of Giannis.
Well,
I mean,
to be fair,
there's things that you just can't predict. They didn't get together as a team. It didn't work. But like, I feel like people be more mad of like if they like got rid of Kyrie or Al Horford to try to reset something and just kind of give up that year, everyone been pissed off because it was said, oh, we would have had a fighting chance. Like, oh, we would have ended up going to the finals with that core because we would have gotten together in the playoffs. And the truth is that we don't know. You don't know things that you don't do. But like,
Also,
that's just a talking point in sports because that's how sports media works.
But it's also very easy to say now, oh, we could have shook it up and traded Kyrie or Terry Rozier or Marcus Morris or the guys that weren't happy with the rules. I mean, we don't know if Marcus Smart was unhappy with his role. Like, he could have been on the trading block. We don't know if any of the, like, who was actually happy or unhappy with their roles.
Agreed. But
we know the people that left that said that they were unhappy. Maybe Jalen was unhappy.
I don't think that anyone back then would have said that trading Kyrie Irving was a smart move, because I think most people in the middle of that season would have tried to tell you, do whatever you can to make sure this guy is happy and sign him long term. But the Terry Rozier and Marcus Morris, I don't know if I would have traded Morris, because it was clear that Gordon Hayward was not all the way back. And you can say whatever you want about Brad Stevens giving him as many chances as he did, because it's been pretty well documented that is a big reason why the locker room was so divided.
For Morris or Hayward?
What?
For Morris or Hayward?
Because Brad gave Hayward a lot of opportunities to prove himself back as, you know, the Gordon Hayward of old. And I think it rubbed guys like, I know Terry Rozier was outspoken about it. I think it rubbed Marcus Morris the wrong way. Even I think Jaylen Brown, I think, might have been on that boat, but I could be.
Sure, yeah.
I know Jaylen Brown hated the Kyrie drama, but I think the Gordon Hayward stuff may have played a role too, because Jalen's role was really tanked that year.
It's impossible to predict like what Kyrie was going to do and what Kyrie, if he wanted to stay or not. I mean, look, getting into the minds of these athletes is hard to begin with. It's like it's like going up and there's a moat with alligators on most of these athletes. They're very like, they're not isolated, but like some athletes just aren't that outspoken. If you want to get in Kyrie's head, it's actually not hard to get into. It's just a door with a bouncer there, but the bouncer makes you trip on shrooms and just take a bunch of drugs and says, go right in, try to find what you're looking for. And you're just tripping absolute balls going around the mind of Kyrie Irving. It's impossible. And you walk out and it's like, just find what you're looking for. And you're just like, no, I didn't. And I found things that I really wish I didn't see.
Like, there was no, again, I think a lot of people in Boston, and I'm sure the Celtics brass probably thought the same thing, is, hey, if we can get this team going come playoff time, like, we're unstoppable. And then you saw that, I think they swept the Pacers or beat them in 5. I think it was the Pacers. Yeah, beat them, then took game 1 in Milwaukee. And then after that, like, if you're a Celtics fan, you're like, holy crap, we're winning the title this year.
Yeah,
this is incredible.
I thought that. And then Giannis was just like, no.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, Giannis was great. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, a lot of it was what was that? 3 for what did he shoot? What did Kyrie shoot? And then he's like, I'm never gonna do that again. And then he shoots the next day a shot worse. So I mean, like, again, like, we have no idea what's gonna happen, and I think that kind of ties back into this Gordon Hayward thing. Like, I'm sure with the information that Danny had, he was trying to make the best decision. Like, there's no doubt in my, like, I don't think Danny would have been stupid or cocky enough to let Gordon go for nothing. I think they're like, the Charlotte offer, I think, was already there. Like, we don't know. I have no idea, but I would be
reported that the reports that are coming out are saying that the Celtics and the Pacers were very far apart in trade talks come the end of the first night of free agency, where the Celtics wanted it to be surrounding like TJ Warren, possibly Aaron Holiday, and some people think that they might have wanted Oladipo as well, but the Pacers were just trying to push Miles Turner, and Danny just did not like Miles Turner, didn't like that there were 3 years left on an $18 million a year contract, didn't think he could flip him. And so they were so far apart that by the end of that night, it was seen that it was sort of the two sides were not going to get a deal done, it seemed. And then Michael Jordan called Gordon Hayward to inform him that he was going to offer a $30 million a year contract, which they could only offer because they missed out on some free agents, including like Montrezl Harrell. Otherwise, their offer wouldn't have been able to beat Indiana's, and talks could have continued with the Celtics and the Pacers. Pacers GM has come out and said they really, really, really wanted him and were doing everything they could to make it happen. I think Gordon just got an offer he couldn't refuse. An offer
100%. And I mean, we have no idea how much he actually wanted to go home. I know you and I were joking about he just threw his kids into school and sent his family back to Indiana when he was going to sign a deal somewhere else. But
it's genius.
It is genius. Take that, Robin.
Gamer genius.
And no, but I mean, and if Danny Ainge hates Miles Turner that much and is willing to let Gordon Hayward essentially walk for nothing because the best that they were offering was Miles Turner, I mean, like, Danny Ainge has more insight than we do. Like,
I don't think that that's exactly how it went down. I don't think that Gordon told Danny, hey, I have this offer, make a deal or I'm going to take it. I think Danny sat on his hands with this deal trying to
and said no one in their right mind's going to give Gordon Hayward $30 million a year,
which is fair. That's the one thing is, like, because to get Gordon Hayward, they not only have to give him $30 million a year, but you either have to figure out another trade to free up $9 million, or you have to waive and stretch Nick Batum, which is essentially paying Gordon Hayward $39 million a year, which is
right.
Even more ridiculous. So I understand Danny not necessarily, if that's the case, because that hasn't been reported on, but if Danny didn't necessarily believe that offer was actually there, I would understand that. The one thing I just can't get behind is pushing this off beyond the option date. Gordon pushed the option deadline back to facilitate a trade and to try to give Danny every opportunity he could to strike a deal with the Pacers. And whether or not Danny likes Miles Turner it's relevant, but it's not as relevant as a lot of people are making it out to be, because just having that asset on the books to be able to flip as a salary matcher along with picks is super important. If Danny can get the trade exception, then that argument goes out the window, and I'll swallow that one and throw it away. But that having $18 million of tradable salary of a 24-year-old good player, particularly when you have a coach who generally improves the value of players, as we've seen over the years, that's valuable. There's value in that. So
maybe they really like Nesmith and Pritchard.
Well, Nesmith and Pritchard could be there with Miles Turner. Like, there's nothing, but maybe they really like Thompson, but I don't know, because they wanted Millsap first. So like,
I was pretty happy with getting Tristan. Like, I didn't. If you told me 3 weeks ago the Celtics are getting Tristan Thompson, I'd be like, what? Why? But like, I kind of like it.
No,
I love it. We just replaced that Mago loving Robin Hayward with Khloe Kardashian. I am so excited. Kardashians are coming to Boston.
She's not moving permanently to Boston, though. Khloe is not.
Oh,
yeah, no.
According to TMZ.
I'm gonna try to scoop that beat.
Kardashians take Brookline.
I think I was gonna say Khloe would love Brookline. We'll do some power walks along the reservoir. I'll fill her in on which women Tristan's sleeping with that aren't her, and we'll just become really good friends. Maybe go to like Tate or something. Get some spinach wraps.
Tate.
We're both Khloe and I are both U of A alumni, so I think we'd be great friends. Oh yeah, she's honestly probably our most famous alumni.
Well, I think if she
really says a lot about the university.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Pete and Khloe Kardashian are going to the same university, what does that say about Pete?
Hey,
She's very smart. She has a nice house in California. She's married to an NBA player, has a lot of money. It's what we do best, Bear Down.
if she knew that Pete were in this area, maybe she would reconsider not moving here full time.
As a Wildcat alum.
The University of Arizona Wildcat Alum Society, Brookline, Massachusetts. Membership 2. Actually 3. I have a kid in my class is from Brookline, so 3. It'd be me, Chloe, and my buddy Leo.
Shout out to Leo.
There's no way he listens to this. I hope I'm go off.
What about Kardashian? Does Chloe listen to this?
I don't think so, but we'll tag her in the Instagram post. I'll say this though, like I'm waiting for just like someone in my class to accidentally stumble upon this and then put in one of our class group chats like, Pete, like, is this you? And then it's just gonna be like, yeah, that's me. And there's like, why are you talking to Pick Boy from Nickelodeon? And it's just like it's one of my hobbies. But one thing I want to talk about is the beauty of Twitter during the NBA offseason, specifically the Horford siblings. Now, Philadelphia has just been absolute roller coaster for me because look, like Philadelphia helps say, I guess looking back at it, like we didn't need Philadelphia to win the presidential election because of Georgia, but they played a big part and they clinched it. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe Philly ain't all that bad. And then Al Horford left. And then Anna Horford just went off. And I was so happy because Sixers fans are some of the most miserable human beings ever, especially Sixers Twitter. They're crybabies, they're sexist, they're homophobes, little racist, at least the ones I've seen. And just the Horford siblings absolutely thrashing an entire fan base that for some reason assumes Al Horford's siblings like moved to the city with him. Like it was absolutely incredible, and it made me realize just how amazing Twitter can be when it's not being overrun by like QAnon tweets.
The best part about that was it wasn't even just Anna. It was 3 different Horford siblings, and it took a matter of maybe 3 minutes after the story broke, and Anna went berserk. I mean, there were 2 great things that happened that night. There was that and the whole Dwight Howard thing, and it was a great reminder of why the NBA I think is the best American league, despite baseball being my favorite sport. NBA remains undefeated.
To go off.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I'm just waiting for Dwight Howard to tweet, "I'm coming on Sip Talk," and then him being an hour late for the Zoom until I realize he's not coming on Sip Talk.
So with the Horfords, Gordo, you'll enjoy this. So last night, big revolution game, New England versus Philly, and the entire match, like, so Philly allows fans in their stadium. These fans are booing at the wrong thing. They're just miserable people. They booed their team off in the first half. They're booing the ref. Just
they were booing the ref who just like refused to give the Revs a PK, even though there was a handball in the box, followed by Buchanan getting tackled from behind in the box and just didn't call a PK. And then we scored 2 goals on them and they just booed every call. And I'm just like, you people are miserable. And they're the 1 seed. They were the best team in the MLS, Gordo. They won the Community Shield and they lost 2-0 to Bruce Arena's Revs. I'm happy.
Community Shield or Supporter Shield?
Supporter Shield. The Community Shield is
MLS talk. Anyway, so Gordo, how this wraps around is they're booing the whole time, even though the ref was missing calls on both sides, mainly the Reb side anyway. So at the end of the game, I tweet, "Yeesh, at Anna Horford and at Josh Horford are right. These Philly fans are miserable, even in soccer." And Josh Horford liked my tweet.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Wow, that is liking a rando's anti-Philly MLS tweet.
It was the burner too.
You know why?
You can't expose my burner.
Okay. Oh, well, we're trying to plug the Weird Celtics Twitter. Don't you want follows?
I don't know if they know who I am.
Okay. I'll edit all this out.
What if you get big? What if you get big and famous? Wouldn't you want to?
No. Weird Celtics Twitter. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna see if I can edit like a beeping sound in here. And all right, if you're just joining us, I accidentally exposed the name of my brother's burner, and we're gonna retract that. because you can't know which Weird Celtics Twitter account he is. But I do encourage you to follow any Weird Celtics Twitter account you can find, and honestly, guess which one is my brother's. Because let me tell you something about Weird Celtics Twitter. Josh Horford even tweeted it was really hard going from the quote legendary Weird Celtics Twitter to crybaby Sixers Twitter.
And he's not wrong.
Definitely not wrong. What a miserable bunch of people.
They've been a little quiet, the 76ers, the last few days. I honestly
Yeah,
thought
because their team's going to be a 5 seed.
I'd be quiet too if my quote unquote trust the process was an absolute dumpster fire.
what do you even do with that team? I mean, you've opened some
Break it up and try it again. 2027, here we come.
Maybe don't draft a guy who cannot shoot threes and is absolutely terrified in a league that has evolved around the three.
Who's they drafted a kid out of Kentucky this year. Everyone was raving about it, saying that it was a good pick, but I know nothing about these guys until they get to the league.
Philly's been to one conference final since 2001.
Tyrese Maxey, that's who it was.
That's outrageous.
The thing
They've
is,
gone down in wins since they've been trusting the process. They've gone down.
Yeah, because they trusted the process and drafted Markelle Fultz
and Jahlil Okafor
and Nerlens Noel.
I'm sorry. I mean, look, okay, the Lakers are so lucky they got LeBron, considering that they drafted Lonzo Ball too. That organization is so
They're not lucky they got him. They just have beaches and they're the Lakers.
They're just from they're the Lakers. They're from
also LeBron. Well, LeBron just wanted to make Space Jam too, if I'm being honest, and because he's starting his own media empire. We all know that's going to happen, and he's going to be a much more successful businessman than Michael Jordan, because LeBron wouldn't give Gordon Hayward all that money if he was running a team. But like that draft, Markelle Fultz, and we traded. We traded with the Sixers. We're like, you can take him.
They not only drafted Markelle. They not only drafted Markelle Fultz, but they gave what at the time was seen as a top 5 pick in the next year's draft to draft Markelle Fultz. They got lucky that it was 14.
What a joke of a franchise.
All these big men too. Like they keep using these super high picks on big men.
Yeah, all you have to do is just get like a Robert Williams, like in the mids, and you're set. Really, I mean, unless you have a big man who can also just drain threes, it's becoming pretty disposable, and I feel like Tice kind of showed that. I know there's some people in the sports media who kind of like gave him a lot of shit, like, oh, of course the Celtics love their German white guy center, but it's just like we have him on a bargain, yeah, we had Aaron Baines and Tights, but like it's just showing that it's a disposable position. Like Steven Adams with getting what I think is like $35 million. Like I love Steven Adams, love him because he's a Kiwi, most legendary New Zealand athlete ever, but like he's not worth that much money. It's honestly like becoming the running back in the NFL. Like the Patriots showed that, hey, this is a very disposable position. We're not going to waste draft picks and waste all this money on a guy that we can replace from like Middle Tennessee State or someone who is working part-time at a Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, no, check out the Golden State Warriors, the greatest team of all time, starting like Zaza Pachulia.
I was going to say before they had Durant, when it was just Clay, Draymond, and Steph, and they were trotting out Zaza, the team that they trot out with Zaza was a better team than the one that they had with Durant.
Oh, one won a championship, one didn't.
Yeah, you're only looking at the regular season there. One almost swept the postseason.
All I am saying is that was the most fun team I have ever seen. And that's what I'm trying to get to this point, was that they had Zaza and they had Steph, who went to Davidson, and Clay, who went to Wazoo, and just very young talent that they developed, and they developed into the best talent, and they won. San Antonio Spurs did the same thing. Like I fully believe the Celtics can do that with Jason and Jalen. Like I think those two are the next best in the NBA.
I was thinking about something, Pete, because we had that conversation where you were talking about the Spurs and the Warriors and developing those guys and those long-term guys. And while you can't count on that, because especially in the NBA championships, they're so often won by like making a move to acquire a star. But the Celtics are really one core developmental piece away from having what you need to have sustained title run success without needing outside additions. Like, for instance, this team is not like an Eastern Conference final team if you don't have like Kemba Walker and Gordon Hayward on it. But like, if Aaron Nesmith turns into like a core piece, especially with a core piece with a jump shot, and you've got those three as like wings who can defend four different positions, shoot the three ball, handle the ball, do everything, then that's a recipe for long-term success. You just don't see it, because how often do you see a team hit on those draft picks in like multiple times in a row and then have the ability to surround it with the right depth pieces, which I think the Celtics are finally like starting to do. I'm a big fan of the Jeff Teague and the Tristan Thompson as depth pieces.
I am too, and I really hope that Neesmith can become this great talent because, well, also now that we're on the topic of Neesmith, how can we get him, or how can we make his official nickname Green Bean?
It's
Because
gonna happen.
I think Green Bean is a great name for him, and the fact that it just stemmed from some random ass, so was it like TikTok or Instagram live clip or something.
It was him.
Yeah, it was him saying it. I don't even know the context. I think he was just very excited and didn't even know what he was saying. But the way he said it and how he said it and that suit that he was wearing when he said it, I think Green Bean is the perfect nickname for Neesmith. And I just want to be yelling Green Bean the three at the TD Garden and just have a baggie full of green beans in my pocket when I'm at games so I can just devour them anytime he hits a three. Because that's like weird Celtics Twitter coming to life. And I want to do that. Trust me, you can sneak in green beans to the Garden. I snuck in a bag full of like Rolos one time. It was delicious.
I remember that.
You know what happened at that game? Do you remember the historical moment that happened?
I do. After 20 something missed attempts, we had Grant Williams' first career 3-point make.
One of the highlights of my life. Like, I've been to many, many sporting events. I don't think I've ever ran down an aisle, usually because games, have like fans at them where you can't run down an aisle. But the classic Wednesday night Celtics, there was I don't even remember. I just sprinted down the aisle and just lost my mind.
That was a great game. What are they? We were playing, I think, the Cavs.
That was
We're-
the Heat. No, I wasn't there.
No, we were
Yeah,
playing.
no, we were at the
No, we were playing the Cavs. Do you know why? Because I was screaming at Tristan Thompson, "Stop cheating on Chloe. She's a nice girl." And there's barely anyone at that game, so I'm pretty sure he heard me. Welcome to Boston. I also kept receipts of the time where it was after LeBron left. He still said, "Well, we're still the Cavs. We'll smoke the Celtics. We're still the Cavs." And I was like,
We're the
"Him, that
team to
thing-"
beat.
Yeah, and it was like him and like Morris going back and forth on Twitter, and I kept that receipt.
Oh God, what a joke of a team that was. Hey, good for Tristan. He gets to compete again.
It just like it must be so nice to just play with LeBron, but I can't like that's got to be that's got to be like the worst hangover of your life. Like playing with LeBron for like 2 or 3 years and just being contenders every single year and then he's just gone. Like that's just like going to the greatest party ever and just doing so many just high-end drugs and then just waking up the next morning and just being
Well,
like, what the fuck just happened? Oh my God. Like that's gotta be the word. Like that Cavs team has got to be like the one after LeBron is like that's the worst hangover ever.
well, the worst part about it isn't even the fact that actually no, the worst part is that you're losing LeBron James. But another terrible aspect of it is that when LeBron comes to your team, he makes you, and I guess rightfully so because it works, but he makes you unload every young asset you have and every future asset you have in terms of draft picks to get guys that he knows, these veteran guys who are like on 1 or 2 year deals that can all jump ship with him when he leaves to go to the next team that's going to do the same thing. But if you're stuck on that team that he left, I mean, that's pretty miserable.
I mean, look at the Clippers. Like, look at Harold. Harold's like, I'm gonna go to that other LA team. Like, remember how we all said, like, at one point, like the Clippers were a much better team than the Lakers for a good amount of time now. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna have this battle of LA. Who's gonna come out on top? Then the Lakers came out on top. And the Clippers are going to be like the Clippers that we knew and loved in the mid 2000s, where you go to games for 50 cents. And Harold's like, I'm getting out of here because they traded everything for Paul George. And they got Kawhi. And it's like, all right, Kawhi, who do you want? And he picked Paul George. And now that organization is screwed for years. And the Thunder are just rolling out. The Thunder are literally just being like, if you want big players, like,
Here's
we'll
the
take them.
difference
Let's have
between
them. We'll take your futures. They took the Suns' future too. They have 2 teams' futures.
they've got more than that. The Thunder, oh my god. No, but there's a big difference between how the Lakers went all in and how the Clippers went all in. And it goes a little bit further than just the Lakers having LeBron. The Lakers went all in contingent on LeBron being down to commit 4 years to them, whereas the Clippers went all in and sold everything they had for a 2-year Hail Mary. At the end of this coming season, both Kawhi and Paul George can leave. And if this season doesn't go well, you may see that. And then you'll see the Clippers without any stars, without any draft picks, without anything. And they even keep Montrezl Harrell like, oh God, it'll be Marcus Morris leading the show.
I mean, I feel kind of bad for Ballmer because he's just a delightful human being. Like when that man speaks, I smile. If you're ever having a sad day, just watch Steve Ballmer videos on YouTube. Like he peps you up. But I mean, examples like this, this happens all the time in American sports and European sports, where you just have owners and GMs who will just go all in and make these daring moves for the now. And this was a conversation we were having a few days ago, Nat, about just going all in. And I've seen so many times across the world of teams going all in and putting these huge investments that don't pay off and don't win a championship and are just ruined. Like it's not like European sports where you have owners who will do that and then just give up, and then those teams can get relegated. So you have teams like Portsmouth or Wigan who go from the first tier in the Premier League to being in the third tier playing with AFC Wimbledon. There's none of that, but you look at a team like the Texans or you look like the Clippers, they are screwed for years. And the fans who pay for season tickets, who put in a fiscal investment in this team, like don't have a say in that. And it's really messed up. And like honestly, I think of the Texans, like Bill O'Brien single-handedly ruined that franchise, single-handedly is going to ruin Deshaun Watson's prime because of dumb moves that no one had any control over. And it's the same thing with the Clippers. That organization is going to be screwed for a decade.
But they have a new billion-dollar complex stadium that Marcus Morris is going to be the head of.
Even worse, like it's the same thing with the Suns. Like Sarver wanted Maricopa County taxpayers to pay $20 million for stadium renovations when they were in last place. And that's what they say. They say, if you don't give us to us, we're going to move. We'll move to Vegas. We'll move wherever. And
Jacksonville's threatening to move now. The Jags.
Jags are?
Jags are. They're threatening to move if they don't get stadium upgrades, I believe.
Yes. Stadium upgrades that Khan can afford himself, but is going to make taxpayers pay for it. I don't know if you've seen the Khan family boat. It is bigger than the stadium. Like it is unbelievable. And I hate to say it, they prey on the loyalty of fans. And it's so messed up because fans will go to their local government officials and say, yeah, give them this because we want our team to be here, even though that money can go towards things like education and health. And guess what? The Jags will put that money towards a stadium. The Suns will put that money towards a stadium. And guess what? Nothing will happen. They are still going to be terrible. And maybe if they do win one title because they put in these big investments and sell out, they're going to be terrible for 10 years after that. It honestly is one of I think the dirtiest sides of sports in the US is taxpayers paying for stadiums, taxpayers who like, especially in places like Jacksonville or in Maricopa County, where like they're not necessarily wealthy and like, hey, like Maricopa County education is not great and teachers are paid jack shit. And they said, well, and the Suns say, we're going to donate $2 million towards Maricopa County education. How about the 20 million goes towards education and the 2 million goes towards Talking Stick Resort Arena? Because you can do all the renovations. It's still going to be empty because the team is terrible.
When we talked about this in our conversation, got towards that direction, like that's like a whole separate issue. I mean, if you want to talk about incompetence in terms of team building, that's the worst thing that can happen. But if you want to get to the business side of things, that's a whole different angle. But luckily, we don't have.
But they're all linked together. Like they're all like competence is all linked together from the talent side to the business side. Like the reason why Boston sports can be so successful is because we are in a city that has very competent business people, has very competent health officials. I honestly I have a theory that one of the reasons why Lord knows what doctors and health thing Tom Brady had going on, but like if you're a Harvard or Tufts medical student and the Patriots walk in and say, who likes football here? And you raise your hand because you like football, boom, you're hired. You have some of the best young medical minds. There's just little things like that, like the human capital in Boston and being around an area that loves sports.
Yeah, like Theo.
Yeah, like you're gonna have people who are gonna work for your team in the future to keep them successful.
And especially when they grow up, like in a city like Boston, at least now, with the team so good, like you're gonna have this generation where there's gonna be there's just going to be a higher percentage of sports fans in a city like Boston than in Phoenix, let's say, just because of all the winning. I mean, Pete and I both agree that we think fandom is going down in a trend, but as a grand scheme of things, like Boston's talent market is going to be more interested in sports than a shitty sport like Detroit. Like they might not be Lions fans, they might not be Red Wings fans, they might not be Tigers fans because their teams sucked when they were growing up. So why would they follow them? So you're basically just expanding your talent pool. So maybe a kid that wouldn't be interested in sports if they grew up somewhere else, they might be interested in sports in Boston. And you're like, oh, I can be the team doctor for the Bruins? Sure. Why isn't Chase joining it?
I have no idea. Nat, do you have any other hot sports takes you want to give us, or should I wrap this up?
I'd be very curious to hear Chase's take on all the Celtic stuff we've talked about. Because like I talked to two very when I'm talking Celtics, I'll talk to you and I'll talk to Harry, and I find myself like you might think that I'm like on this extreme end of like anti-Danny, but I find myself very much in the middle of you and Harry.
I don't think you're anti-Danny. I think you think what you like your opinion matters on Danny Ainge. No, it doesn't. Your opinion does. You being mad at Danny Ainge does, like Peter said, does nothing because the owners in sports don't listen to the fans.
Well, obviously, my opinion is not going to make something happen for the Celtics, but like my opinion is valid.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not saying
change anything.
I'm saying that you being mad at Danny Ainge, regardless of what he does, makes zero difference in what the Celtics are going to do until ownership has a problem with what Danny does.
It could. I agree. It could have fans actually had stake in ownership and teams.
Exactly what I'm saying.
If we want to turn this into a fan-owned team discussion, because trust me, that is all I want. Like I think the Bundesliga in Germany, the 50% plus one rule is fantastic. It keeps owners in check. It gives fans a 50% stake in the team, and then it's the plus one, so they always have more power than the owners, and that prevents people like Sarver for the Suns to just make it a toy and bleed it dry and take advantage of the fans. And guys like Khan, I didn't even know Jacksonville's looking for renovations. And like,
where are they going to go?
All these connections,
like they've run London. Out of relocation. Back to St. Louis?
They always say London, and the Jaguars always play in London because Khan also owns, I want to say Fulham. And the thing is though, is that like the NFL won't work in London. I've been in London during the NFL season and I tried to watch football. It's impossible. Like the time zones just don't add up. Like, and that team could never play in a quote unquote prime time game. Like like you can't. A team in London can't play 8 o'clock Eastern Sunday night football. That is 1 a.m.
If it was more fan run, like a lot of these clubs in Europe, like if you're pissed at Danny Ainge, then like, yeah, that has a huge impact on Danny Ainge's job.
Well,
But I
I'm
mean,
not in this. Like, I'm not like expressing my opinions to try to drive change in the Celtics organization. Like, honestly, like, if
well,
you,
why are you getting mad? Who cares? Like,
well,
what is getting
I
mad
care
about
about
it?
the team. I want the team to do what is best and what drives them to be the best team possible. So if Danny does something that I think doesn't do that, I'm gonna disagree with it. And since it's something I care about, I'm gonna talk about it.
But if you don't have any stake in the team, then saying what I want is saying that I want what's best for the team. You don't have a stake in the team. That's what we're saying. The great thing about fan owned teams is that, or having fans having stake in the team, is that like the team's interests are your interests.
Well,
But
when
as
you
a,
say
but
stake, do you mean that like what you say matters to them, or are you saying like nothing that happens to the team impacts you?
what I'm saying is that you personally can be impacted by the team if you are so loyal. But if you don't have like an ownership stake in it, then the team doesn't care. Like then it's a one-way street. Then it's you caring about them, but them not caring about you.
Well, that's generally what sports fandom is for the most part. Is you care so much about a team, but in the end, most, if not everybody within the team's organization doesn't know who the hell you are. You're just one of the fans that, and they need fans, but they don't need you.
No, but what I'm saying is that even as a collective, they don't need. Even as a collective, they don't care. Especially with TV revenues, like the NBA is not one of those sports where they need to have fans in the stands. They really don't. Baseball is not a sport where they need fans in the stands. However, I think that's going to change. The NFL is not a league where they need fans in the stands. Really, the only sport in America or league that like drastically needs fans in the stands is the MLS.
And
And that's
hockey.
why MLS.
Hockey's TV deals are microscopic. I think they rely on gate.
That's true. But especially MLS, that's why MLS teams like do things that are like very sustainable in terms of fandom. Like they don't try to make tickets very outlandish. They like the idea of supporter sections and different supporter groups from different parts of the cities and different demographics. Like maybe this is my European soccer bias, but I mean, you've heard me after Celtics games. I always try to start like European soccer chants for the Celtics, and I scream, "The Wizards are shit. The Wizards are shit, and they can suck my dick." Like it's like I want that atmosphere because that atmosphere is what honestly drives fan collectives, fan owned teams, like a sense of togetherness where, like you said, when it's not, it is kind of just about you. Like, oh, the team let me down today. We lost to the Grizzlies. The Celtics really let me down. I'd like to be in an environment where the team, the Boston Celtics, are a team for Boston, not a team for the Celtics, if you get what I'm saying.
But I think the main point is that in if you don't have if your opinion doesn't hold any weight in decisions, then what, like, instead of being mad about it, then shouldn't it just be, all right, we're on to whatever we're doing. All right, we're down this path. Instead of being all mad about it. Because like what does being mad about it actually do? We're on
Well,
to Cincinnati, right, Gordo?
well, that's certainly one way to look about it. Like that's like if you want to be that type of fan, that's just gonna roll with the punches and just like
Well, what's the other option? To just be pissed off about it for a day?
well, I get very into the business side of sports, and like how the NBA works is fascinating to me. I love learning new things. I've learned so much this off season, and I've been following off seasons in the NBA for, I guess, since Kevin Durant was a free agent. I've been following it pretty closely, so I learn a lot every year just following it. Getting upset at this stuff is not like, it's not like getting upset for a purpose. It literally is just because I see a path for the team to be the best version of itself that it can be, and management didn't take them down that path.
But do
And
you
so it
not think
upsets
that
me.
Danny Ainge has a better grip on what the best path of the team is than you.
I no, Danny Ainge is not immune. Danny Ainge he can make missteps depending on how this stuff ends up, because I'm willing to admit that there is a path where this ends up better than a trade for Miles Turner.
But I mean, hindsight's in 2020. Hindsight is 100% 2020.
Well, okay, but to Nat's point, like 3 years ago, we can make the same argument, say in football. Oh, I don't work in the football business, so I mean, yeah, like Bill O'Brien definitely knows more than me than what he's doing. I should trust Bill O'Brien because
Exactly.
I'm not in the business, but he did terrible. But what I'm saying is that Danny Ainge has actually proved himself as a solid GM. He has made good decisions. He has proved himself, whereas Bill O'Brien never did.
Oh,
Like guys like Adam Gase never did in football. Like and whoever the hell is running the Phoenix Suns at this point.
Well, I think being a
never
head
did.
coach and being a GM, like a head coach GM job, I think is a lot different than specifically GM job.
It is, but what Pete's trying to say is that there's
yes, no blind trust. Yes, isn't necessarily great, but also at the end of the day, there's no point in being like, oh, Bill O'Brien, like it is what it is.
Well, but that's like if you're looking at it as getting upset for a purpose. Like sometimes things just like annoy you, and you can't help but be like annoyed or upset about it, and that's just what this is like.
But you said yesterday, Danny Ainge is done in my books. Is essentially.
I did not say that. I said Danny Ainge is not immune, and Danny Ainge should be held under a microscope, and he should.
But I think if you hold Danny Ainge under a microscope and you compare it to other NBA GMs, you're going to say, oh, he's one of the best. And he actually knows what he's doing, and he actually cares. I think having a GM who played for the team and has a connection to the city is very important too, because like he legitimately cares about this city and this team. I can guarantee that, even though I don't know the guy. But the point I'm trying to make is that, let's say you're a Houston Texans fan, like you should be mad with Bill O'Brien. You should be going rabble, rabble, rabble. But like you also like that. The point I'm trying to make is that that's why fans like need to stand up to try to have more of a stake in this. Like not totally fan owned, but God, I hate to sound like a total socialist, but like we really buy into this capitalist sports machine where we just let the huge like sports teams just do whatever the hell they want. And we keep just feeding it money, whether it's actually for our benefit or not, because that's just the status quo.
I want to bring up something that just popped into my mind, because we've been talking a lot about how fans can't really impact decision making, and their opinions can't really be heard by the people that matter
in American sports.
And yeah, at least in American sports. And like we're gonna talk about Boston teams specifically here. Think about some of the times where the Red Sox went all in. So you can think, and like it wasn't, both times I'm thinking of were not necessarily their smartest off seasons, but they made the playoffs a bunch of years in a row, and then they missed the playoffs in 2010. So what do? They trade for Adrian Gonzalez and sign Carl Crawford. And then after they missed the playoffs, I think it must have been 2014.
Wait, which one are you talking about? They missed in, what was Chicken and Beer, 11?
I'm thinking of, I forget what year it was, but I'm thinking of the offseason where they signed Hanley and Pablo Sandoval. And these
16? Before that.
It was before that, but not long before that. And those off seasons happened because ownership of the Red Sox cares so much about the public perception of the team and how TV ratings look. Like, yes, as an individual fan, no individual fan truly has an impact, but how teams are viewed on TV, how teams are talked about on sports radio, even like no matter how stupid it may sound, it makes a difference.
Well, because that drives TV deals. If you piss off the entire, I agree with that, but I'm saying like you're mad at one individual Danny Ainge move, and you're saying he needs to be looked under a microscope.
Yeah, I think that there should not be any more in Danny we trust for moves that, like, why the hell would you do that? Like with Belichick,
you have no idea how this is going to play out. If we win the NBA title this year, are you going to say, hey, Danny still got, Gordon Hayward move? Still got to look at under.
No matter how well the Celtics do this year, if they lose Gordon Hayward for nothing, I don't care. They could have been better.
Okay, you don't know that.
You don't know that, but I want to go back to something you said about the Red Sox.
Miles Turner could have been a locker room cancer.
Can you trade the salary along with picks and take back $18 million worth of salary instead of
then that guy could have been cancer? We don't know. We have no idea.
No. Like you just signed Tristan Thompson. He could take a gun into the locker room and shoot the entire team.
We signed Tristan Thompson, not Gilbert Arenas. Now, okay, but Agent Zero, U of A. No, but actually, I want to go back to something you said about the Red Sox, because that's a very interesting team to look at in terms of conversation we were just having, because that is a team that does care about Boston, because that team was founded at a time where like there weren't TV deals that you had to worry about. Like that team is so old and is in a time when fans actually kind of had somewhat of a stake in a team. Like the Red Sox will never has the Red Sox ever asked for like large amounts of public money for renovations, or does it mostly come from the private ownership? Because
most of it comes from private ownership, but I do believe this in 2000, whenever they were threatening to,
they threatened to get rid of Fenway Park, but no one's ever threatened.
I think they were going to. So it was going to be they were going to build. Originally, there was going to be like a giant, like sports complex built in. I don't want to mess this up, but I think like Seaport or like near there, they were going to build a football stadium and new baseball stadium. But I think they were going to have public money for that. But the new ownership, the new ownership came in and committed money to restoring Fenway.
Yes.
So I don't think I would be surprised if it was a lot of public money. I'm not 100% sure on that.
But what I'm saying is, and it's going back to Gordo, like the Red Sox fan base, while I think baseball fandom is dying, like you have a team that is passed down from generation to generation. The D-backs, on the other hand, are as old as I am. Like, so when the D-backs demand public money from Maricopa County to renovate Chase Field, you're asking people who were like 20 or 30 years old or older when that team was founded.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Also, you can't really ask for any state money. Like if you ask for anything obscene, you can't like threaten to leave. Like the Red Sox can never threaten to leave Boston. Like what leverage do you even like? You have no leverage.
Braves did.
All right, Nat, Xander, before we close up the Zoom and this podcast, it would not be classic sports radio without predictions. I have the Celtics as a 2 seed in next year's playoff, and I have them making the Eastern Conference Final. I'll not guarantee anything further, but I do think they win a championship. But I have them going to the Eastern Conference Final as a 2 seed. Nat, your prediction?
God, it's just so hard to predict before the team is complete. But one thing I will definitely predict, I do think they're going to get this trade exception for Gordon Hayward. I don't think they're going to use it right away. I think it's going to drive a lot of people on Celtics Twitter bonkers because we've never really like sat on a trade exception before. So people aren't going to realize that like oftentimes these things don't get used until they expire after a year, but oftentimes they don't get used until close to that point. So people are going to be begging for Danny to trade it. I don't think he trades that thing until next offseason. I think we go into next season generally with the roster that we have plus one guy that we don't know yet. I think they're going to be a 3 seed. I don't know. I could still see them in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I don't think they're a finals team, but I could still see them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Despite some of my negative tone in like the conversations we have, I do think the Celtics are going to continue to be a good team. They showed that they could be that team last year even without Gordon Hayward. It's just a matter of can they be great and what is going to push them over the line to be a finals team.
You know, maybe if the Braves had a little bit better pitching in the mid 1940s and they didn't have to do little spawn in Spain and then pray for rain, I think they probably could have stayed in Boston. And I think we'd be having an entirely different conversation when it comes to sports in Boston. And maybe
The
a team would
Braves
have
conversation we were having was off air. That wasn't recording, and it's probably going to be edited. Out of all the people to drop a live grenade in this episode, I thought it was going to be Nat. I thought it was bound to be Nat. But I'm Pete Sippis. This is Sip Talk. Thanks for listening.